But I got a special guest that I actually interviewed. Pre-recorded. Why is that important? Because it was done on Zoom. If it works as we think, we may have circumvented all of our glitchy problems, all of our live interview problems, so you'll never again have my lips go, that's why I don't. And never again. So I thought to myself, once again, Wyatt has broken through and made everything work. He's finally getting outside of glitch guy. He's moving beyond button boy. He's finally getting my podcast to where it seems somewhat not as amateurish and crazy, messed up as it normally is. See, I can do all the messing up myself. I certainly don't need him to add fuel to the fire. And as I went to get my iPad so I could see you guys and say hi, why, he forgot to charge it. Why do I open up this special 7 p.m. Labor Day special Brad Stine Has Issues podcast with a glitch about my son failing again to keep the podcast seeming somewhat, somehow less than pure amateur? Because if I didn't bring it up, it just wouldn't be Brad Stine Has Issues. Hit it, son. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is God's comic, Brad Stine. Brad Stine Has Issues. Where comedy, conservatism, Christianity collides in a cacophony of clarity. This is 7 o'clock. It is my special time to say hi to all my friends, my fans, and all my new fans that once in a while jump on and get excited because they've seen my comedy and now they get to see me live. Just as a normal guy, very few people realize, for example, that I don't have legs. As you can see, I am simply a waist-up torso. But on the video screens, we CGI. And why were you the one that first CGI'd my legs to give the illusion that I was walking during my...
No. I came in later and tried the prosthetics output.
That's right.
And that just didn't work out, unfortunately.
He had these little stilt-type things arrangement, and I was constantly talking.
It works for the circus.
It does work for the circus, and
you are a walking carnival act.
Did I not tell you my nubs are probably not going to be effective with this type of contraption? And you refused to let me alone until I allowed you to attach to my nubs. And look, sure enough,
I had already put down the deposit. We couldn't return them until next week without imposing the fine, and I did not want to go through that again, okay?
Well, I'm just saying to you, you're going to have to trust your pops that when I am trying to give the illusion I can walk, you're just going to have to trust me that something's not working.
Well, why don't I give you the illusion of guessing who was first to the podcast?
Listen to me. I'd like to say, welcome St. Nick to the podcast. Yep. Welcome St. Nick to number one.
And I would love to say that too.
What? Why?
He's been defeated. He's been dethroned.
St. Nick has been dethroned. You mean he has lost his sainthood?
And listen to the next podcast. When
okay, what happened? Tell me.
Who do you think among us claimed his throne this week?
You know who I'd like it to be.
Who?
Who do you think?
Karen?
Yes, Karen
keep
Boyd.
dreaming.
Dang it, Karen Boyd! I tried to believe in you. Where were you? Hey, Benjamin Gregory finally has figured out how to... What?
Not Benjamin.
Not Benjamin Gregory,
not
my
Benjamin,
Mr. Link boy that's always putting the links on.
No.
Without even asking, he just puts links on. He puts link sausages on.
Friend,
this guy's got links down.
We have tonight a new usurper.
What? Wait, do I know them?
I don't know, just the name Jim Brona.
Jim Brona, yes, he's a regular.
Yeah, well,
Jim is a
regular. It's now your time in the spotlight.
Jim Brona, I want to say to you, bro, nah. I think it's a great...
Okay, listen,
what?
I
What?
was thinking of that exact joke,
But...
but I didn't do it because I remembered that there were actually funny things that could be said.
Okay, see, that's my point, folks.
Oh, and also... Sorry, before you get on with what I'm sure was a brilliant piece,
Yeah.
I am sorry about the iPad incident. But we don't have 30 minutes to talk to the audience.
I love talking to my peeps. Here's what you guys need to know. If you're on for the first time, you don't know that you're watching a train wreck that somehow we staple together and duct tape it. We shove like a rod on the side because it's tilting, and we inflate like a rubber something, and we do everything we can to keep things afloat. If you're a regular, you know for a fact. Do you know whose arm just stuck in there? That's Wyatt, the guy you're never going to see.
Yeah, I had to give him the backup iPad, also known as my phone.
I know. Hey, guess who's here? Tamala Walter, Gumbo from Zaraduria. Barbara Duvall, hey, Brian, what? Amber Munoz is here. Yes, Amber Munoz. Wyatt. Mm-hmm. Who's my favorite Italian? Paula Fay Mario for named lady.
Oh, no.
She's my phone named lady. Shauna Fredericks here. Hello again. Kathy Simpson. G'day from Australia. It is a good day. Unless you're in Australia, then it's a bad day because everything's locked up. They took all your guns and you are a police state. Sorry, Australia. We begged you to not put so much focus on crocodiles and on kangaroos and look about your free speech. Anyways, apparently he didn't care. Let's see. Tamala Walters said hi. Sean Syriac. What happened to Joseph? She said. I don't even know what that means. Brenda K. Marlowe. Hello from Michigan.
You don't remember Joseph, the third co-star we had for like 5 episodes?
I don't.
Oh man, he was like the best part.
Wyatt, guess what Wayne Steele said? Hi, Brad. You're a great comedian.
That's a first.
Well, I'm going to take it. Randall Wilkie, hello, sir. I enjoy your comedy. Thanks, Randall. Enjoy your comment. Chris Brian Renwick, up from Cold. Well, I don't know. Howdy, y'all. That's Cheryl Johnson, Kenneth Finley, Emily Smith. She said might just be my signal, but audio is lagging. Wyatt, I don't know.
Well, audience, in case you don't know, we are running this podcast on what I affectionately refer to as the potato.
Oh, yes.
It is a laptop that was generously donated to us.
Yes.
But it appears that our streaming software hates it.
Oh, well. We'll have to do something.
Whenever I have any other tabs on, like to check the comments on my giant, like 20-inch TV I use as a second screen,
Listen,
it lacks the whole thing.
Listen, guys. Guess what? Nick Cressy came in second. Tamala Walter, guess what she said, Wyatt?
What?
Your comedy is great.
I mean, I thank you, but I mean, I think we don't need to stop at great. I'd say excellent.
Sean Syriac said he's never going to let that
impeccable.
go, Wyatt, because I was jamming you for screwing everything up again in the beginning.
Well, hold on. We're not talking about you. We're talking about me and my great comedy.
That's true.
All right.
Hey, look what I got. Pat Nelson, I feel like I'm watching an old Godzilla movie. Why are your words, lips, and actions not in sync? Wyatt!
Because this is the English dub. If you want to watch the original Japanese translation of it, you're going to have to go to our other podcast.
You know what Patrick Sarah said? That's how it is when I'm rolling a joint, Brad. See how he is in his joints?
Always about the joint. It's the only thing he talks about.
I know.
Who is this?
You know what? He's stoned. Eddie Paler, I love your lectures. Texas Coast with Mary Jane Prude Ross, I'm sorry. Good to be here tonight. That's Brenda K. Marlowe. Benjamin is here. Laura Ray's here. Chris Brian Renwick said hello. Cheryl Johnson, as I mentioned. Karen's way down here. Holy smoky. Queensland's here. Chris Brian Renwick. See, we got a couple Australians. These poor people have nothing else to do.
Isn't like time reversed over there?
It is. Everything's reversed.
So
The toilet flows backwards.
So this is like 7 a.m. for them, isn't it?
Yes. Do you know that everything goes backwards, right?
Okay, so let me get this straight. You woke up today, and the first thing you thought to do was go to this podcast?
Yeah, I know.
I mean, I guess it is Australia. They don't have really much else to do, but come
Hey,
on. Kickbox a kangaroo or something. I don't know.
Listen to me. I want you to listen to me very carefully, son. Amber Munoz said, I just found you. Mm-hmm. I didn't know I was lost.
Well, I mean, some people would rather it stay that way, but
Son.
thankfully they're not in this chat tonight.
I'm just saying, I didn't know I was on the lam, but she just found me. Brad, as a comedian, and I love your work so much, you have inspired me to share my faith in my new health life coaching business. Well, good for you. I'm glad I inspired you, but as I always tell people, if I inspire you, good, run with it. You have your own territory you're responsible for. If it is true that God is real and revealed himself in Jesus and you don't tell people about it, then something is seriously wrong with your assessment as what matters in life. If God has been on earth, maybe people should know. Well, let me ask you about this a second here.
Sure,
I gotta move on.
yeah.
Listen, I know that you at Lowe's, and he does work at Lowe's, friends, and I know what you're saying. With the kind of money I'd pay him, why would he need that second job? I think it's because he loves people. He loves wrenches, and he loves sockets. Wyatt, what am I missing?
So, actually, it's because I get to do fun stuff every once in a while. Like yesterday.
Here comes the story. It's a Lowe's story.
Anyone who has ever worked retail at some point will begin to develop the thoughts, as I like to call them.
Oh,
those intrinsic voices in your head telling you, the customer doesn't need that. Get him out of here. You got other things to do. You don't have time to worry about this. And any good retail employee knows to suppress them.
Oh my gosh.
And unfortunately, I am not a good retailer.
What did you do, Wyatt?
So it's a simple, basic 5-second story, but I thought it was hilarious. So a customer comes up to me while I'm working on something, and he asks, "Can I ask you a question?"
Yeah.
And I responded, "Sure, yeah." And then he said, "Okay, cool. Can you help me get this thing down?" And I said, "Nope." Just kept working on my stuff.
Oh my gosh. What did he say?
Oh, we laughed it off.
Oh, it was a joke, and then you eventually helped him get the stuff.
Of course. Look. Just because the intrusive thoughts won doesn't mean that it wasn't like a total. It was more like a Pyrrhic victory for the impatient thoughts.
I thought what you were telling me is that you had finally grown so bitter that you finally just said, I don't like these people anymore, and it ruined your life and your character, and because you're a nice guy, and I thought maybe this had finally destroyed you.
No, I'm still firmly at the stage where I will only complain like that on internet forums where I am anonymous and nobody knows who I am.
And if Lowe's ever breaks you, son, I know where you can get a good deal on duct tape.
Home Depot?
Patch it up. Home Depot. Listen, I got to tell you something. People are always asking me about my comedy. Now, the reason they do is because I'm a comedian and have been for quite some time. Matter of fact, I was a comedian before you existed. For those who don't know, this is your first time on the podcast. That voice you hear is my son. His name's Wyatt Leroy Stine. And I created him from my loins. He literally was created from whole cloth. He was nothing. He didn't exist. He was in that sort of space of wonderment. Well, can I have a son? Will I have a boy? Can it come through? Will he be technologically savvy? 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
Shut up and keep talking.
2 out of 3 ain't bad.
You do realize I control the buttons, right? Including the button that does this. And that is but a taste of my power.
See, the one button that he has control over is my mute button, and I'm the single most important element of this show because...
You kidding me? This podcast could run without you, but it could not run without me.
That's true.
You wouldn't even know what the buttons looked like.
You're right. All right. Well, let's get off the buttons for right now. Because I was curious about why people first started watching the show. And at first, I thought it was, because they were bored. Because remember, this was launched and was birthed through the Corona crazy crap cult. So I figured, maybe people just want something to do like I did. I got on because I wanted something to do. Suddenly people watched. Suddenly people were interested. Suddenly people said, hey, I've watched your thing, or I just came across you and I find it interesting. And hey, let's see what this guy's all about. So I always felt like if I'm going to do this, I need to be funny and then add the other elements of what I put into my comedy, which is my cultural criticisms criticisms and my commentary, because that's part of what my comedy is. It's part of what I am as a person, as a man, as a human, as an American, as a patriot, as a Christian. All of these things build up my sort of justification for why I exist and why I have something to add, hopefully, to the milieu of the human process. But I'm known for comedy. If I didn't have comedy, Wyatt, if I didn't have comedy, think of this. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you ever have, because you've always known me as a comedian, because you've been here. Mm-hmm. But if I didn't have comedy, the only thing I would have going for me, the only thing that people would be intrigued is my looks. I'm gorgeous, and my genius. Other than, what else would I have? So that's why I think comedy is important, because it gave them a
because
third.
It distracts from those other 2 points.
Well, it is like the third leg on the stool, on the tri-stool, that allows it not to topple and fall over like I was.
The third leg on the stool, so still not enough, huh?
Look, I'm telling you, son, I want people to have fun. Laughter is a beautiful thing. I think it's God's gift. I think it allows us to experience joy. But one of the things I most love about comedy, and why I think it's so crucial right now in the world, let alone America, is it is always the truth teller. It exposes things. It talks about things other people don't want to. Now we have this sort of woke leftism, progressivism, which I hate, despise, and will never bow to, and will never. And the more they come at to me, the more I will double down and spew back truth, because truth will always win, always win. So I love it when they came after me, because I was like, how dare you? You don't even begin to fence with me, because I will destroy you. Unless you get me shot and killed. Now, then I can't speak. But other than that, I'm going to do my best. But I'd like to think that comedy is a way to approach hard subjects, scary subjects, uncomfortable subjects, and let people deal with it and find humor in it, in the darkness. If you can do that, I think comedy has a role in culture that has more value in many ways than some of the other performing arts, which oftentimes give you beauty, like music or even sculpting and painting, and allow you to see the transcendent in hopefully the beauty. Now that's been destroyed by the left, and now they see nothing but scatological art. They see nothing but dark out, broken art, ugliness to them is now art, whereas art used to be considered. Beauty was the preeminent goal, was to bring beauty and let the human grow. And now, of course, they just degrade it, because leftism destroys everything. It's cancer. I've told you, that's not a joke. It's not a metaphor. It literally is intellectual cancer driven by a institutionalized narcissist. So this is where we're at, and it's for truth. But one of the jokes I did a number of years ago was me sort of exploring the idea of funerals. I lost my dad at 59 years old. He was a very young man, so I miss him. He's been gone quite a while now. But you know, I wanted to deal with this subject matter about funerals, and it just would, I know he would have laughed. He was a great, funny guy. You never really knew him. Why? You were too young to remember him. You were alive for while he was alive for a little bit, but you didn't remember. You were too young. Mm-hmm. But I did talk about funerals and dead people. So I thought, well, let's throw that clip in, because as I said, I always like to do funny up first, because what we got coming is heavy. So let's talk funny first, and then we'll come back. So right now, son, is there anything funny about dead people and funerals? Well, if you weren't sure, let's find out.
In the beginning, it was good, and we messed up, and we're part of the lineage of that group of people. We brought on this earth what was never supposed to be here: death! Why do you think we hate it so much? Because we weren't designed to die. Freaks us out. We don't even like looking at dead people. Do you want to look at dead people? Why do they make us look at dead people? They're creepy! Crying out loud, then they stick him in a casket. That's where Dracula lives. This is wrong! You know, if somebody fell dead right now, right outside there, we'd cover them up. Why? So you don't have to view them. Then we clean them up, put them in a suit, stick them in a coffin, and say, now go view them. I don't like it. They try to make it nice. Try to make it palatable. Hey, we'll do it in a home. We'll have it in a funeral home. Don't worry, it'll be in a home. You know what? I've got a home. There's hardly ever a dead guy in there. Matter of fact, if there was a dead guy in my home, 16, I'd make you go in and get him out. Hey, there's a dead guy. Get him out of my house. I want to go home. I hate funeral homes. As soon as you walk in, there's too many doors. I never know which one has the dead guy. Is he in there? That's the rest of them. What said, man, I thought they stacked them up. I don't know what happens. Finally find that special door. There's the dead guy. Okay, there he is. This is terrible. I hate it. Can I leave now? No, you've got to go view him. What? I can see him from here. No, you've got to go up and pay your respects by staring at the dead guy. He doesn't care. Get up there! No one knows what to say. You start babbling because it's so ridiculously awkward. Yes, he looks so natural. That's what he looked like naturally? Might have been the first clue something's wrong with Grandpa. When he started stiffening up. Crying out loud, here comes the next group. They don't know what to say. They sound like bigger idiots. He looks like he's sleeping. Grandpa slept in a suit? With his glasses on? I didn't know that. I love it when they say that. Strangers will say that. He looks like he's sleeping. What does strangers know what I look like when I'm asleep? Is this happening? Am I going to bed at night and my neighbors are walking through my house? Where is he? There he is. I can't see him, Mommy. There he is, Tommy. Look at him. He looks like he's dead. Always some weird music playing. What is that music? It was his favorite. It was his favorite. How ironic. The one guy that liked this song, the only guy not here to enjoy it. Hey, listen, I gotta stare at a dead guy. Can you play a song I might want to listen to, please? Something to get me through this ordeal of staring at the dead guy. Maybe slap on a little Lady Gaga to get me through this stinking deal, huh? Poker face, poker face. And you don't get any gifts for dying because you failed. Is he still here? No. No cake for you. We don't give you anything for dying. Well, that's not true. We will give you flowers.
So, as you can see, I have retrieved my iPad. Why? Because I had him charge it while I was, riffling through his phone. I was riffling through his phone because he had to sneak it up here. He had to sneak it up here because he failed to charge it. He failed to charge it because he's incompetent. He's incompetent.
Hey?
Because
I don't deny any of that, actually.
I know. Listen, I got to tell you something. And if you guys don't know, he's my son. I love him. We joke. We always have. We always will. And if it makes you uncomfortable, if you think, you're being too hard on him, good. I want you to feel that feeling because that's what it used to feel like when people didn't give a crap. They just joked because they assumed that they loved each other and that it was part of the fun of it. It used to be a very guy thing, White. Well, like when your friends joke together, and you're 26. So when your friends joke, do you guys sort of rib each other a little bit?
More than anything.
Okay, and
it's honestly our own special language.
Okay, do you think it's typical of your age, or do you think your particular nerd friends, and he is a nerd, he's a nerd, girls, but he's single, and he's looking.
Yeah, okay, cool. I would say it's fairly common.
It is.
Yeah, fairly common.
So is it mean-spirited? Does it almost get like, oh my gosh,
trust
this guy
me, you can tell when it's mean-spirited, and when it's just guys having fun.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, there you go.
It's like how you can tell when something is being said sarcastically.
Uh-huh.
Like, even though the words are the same, you can definitely tell when I'm trying to be sarcastic.
Yeah, right. Well, and it's fun, though, because you like each other. It's the fun of it. It's just a way of us connecting in a way that isn't a typical thing.
The way I like to see it is making fun of your friends is your way of saying, I understand that this is something weird with you, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Well, that's it. I mean, and it's really saying I love you just the way you are. So that's important. Speaking of loving me just the way I am, I want to let you know that I got a little tour starting this Wednesday. I'm going to be in Minnesota, of all places. I'm trying to go to places that could use some truth, some unapologetic Americana, unapologetic Christian, conservative. Poor Minnesota. I used to love going there with such great people. There's still a lot of great people there, but boy, has it lost its way. The Twin Cities are destroyed, completely destroyed by the woke and the left and the cancer. You can just watch it rip through the good cells and destroy everything that's there. But it is what it is. It is. We're at a place in America where we may lose the republic and the country and the freedom. Very well might happen. We're going to talk about that with our guest here in just a few minutes. But I always say fight until you're dead, till you don't have a shot. So I want to let you guys know I'm going to be in Singas Church, September 7th in Astoria, South Dakota, which is kind of a border of Minnesota. Singsas Church, great church there. And this pastor stands up for God and truth, and they even had death threats because they believe in speaking biblical truth, and they do pack. Crosspoint Alliance, I'm going to be in Perham, Minnesota on the 8th. On the 9th, I'm going to be at Isle High School in Isle, Minnesota on the 9th. The 10th, I'll be at Stoughton Baptist, Stoughton, Minnesota. And on the 11th, 4 p.m., Tremont Covenant Church in Tremont, Minnesota. So go to my website, brettson.com, 7 through 11, if you happen to be in that part of Minnesota. You can see me live, see what I'm up to, see what I'm talking about, watch new material being developed for my next album. That's what we're about. I wanted to say something. I was driving past actually my brother's house, and there's a area where people jog. And I was driving past, and I saw something that really, really disturbed me. What do you think it was, Wyatt?
Oh, boy, it could be anything.
I know. Well, that's the key. It couldn't just be one thing, could it, son? Isn't that a little obvious?
Well, yeah, but sometimes the obvious answer is the correct one.
See how he is? No matter how I try to sort of throw him off, that boy can find his rudder, son.
It's just like Occam's razor.
Yes,
yeah,
that's
simple solution is usually the best one.
Oh, well, let me think about that. No, I think you're right.
Yeah.
I agree. Well, here's the deal. So here's what I saw, guys, and it's, to me, indicative of America. America was built on people that really took care of each other. We had to, because we were brand new and things were hard and we were in a struggle. It was hard to get imported things, and we had to create our own land and figure out how the weather worked and how to plant and how to sow seed properly and how to do this and that, and then live by little villages. And then more people came over and they were trying to build a community. And this is, America, like every village, every country, every tribe starts like that, simply trying to figure it out. And we needed each other. We needed the support of each other. We didn't all agree. We didn't all have the same political views. We didn't have all the same belief systems. We didn't have all the same religious beliefs. Some had none. But we needed the undergirding of being an American for us to survive. We needed that sort of undergirding of tradition, of who we are, of balance. What is it about us that we can find commonality to? We have to have some solid commonality, some foundation, or we crumble. And that was sort of the sense of duty to each other as citizens. We needed that. It was expected. And of course, by the time we got to the founders who created the Constitution, every one of the founders said that we will need to be religious people because we're going to be a self-government, which means every individual, since they are the government, you're the government, I'm the government, is going to have to be moral, or we're going to have anarchy, will be destroyed, and morality only comes from religion. And in the West, it comes from the Judeo-Christian ethic. So that's why they said this is crucial, important, why the Bible has to be taught, why Jefferson paid from the public till to have missionaries go into the Indian tribes and bring Bibles. They all said we got to have a moral standard that we can all stand for. So this is simply the true history of America, and we hear a lot about that. Well, we need the true history of America. The true history of America was we're not going to make it if we're not religious, and we're certainly, when they spoke of religion in that time, they were talking about Christianity, clearly, obviously. They weren't all Trinitarians, all the founders, so they certainly had a different view of what maybe we would consider evangelical Christianity, or as we think of it today, conservative, but they all believed in Jesus as a moral teacher, that Christianity as a foundation for the West and how we should see the world, and the Judeo-Christian idea of the ethics of the Torah and the Ten Commandments as the ultimate range of God Almighty reveal Himself to people. And even in I believe on the Liberty Bell, I think Deuteronomy is the only scripture reference about, freedom and justice in the land. Something to that effect. I don't have it memorized. But this is who we were. Well, I was going past this path where people can walk, and I saw a woman, younger woman, with 2 kids. And she was walking her stroller with her little baby. I don't know if it was a boy or girl, didn't see, but had a little baby stroller. And next to her was this little, I think a little boy, I'm going to guess 4 years old, 4 or 5, probably 4, because he was on his bike, but it had training wheels. So there's mom, there's a little baby being pushed, there's training wheels boy over here, right? They were a little family. It was beautiful out, sun was out, there were trees, it's summer still in Tennessee, beautiful state, one of the prettiest states. And she was walking down there, and there was one element to that whole picture that just sickened me, broke my heart. The woman, the mom, with her little boy next to her on the tricycle, or on the bike with his trainer wheels, and pushing together as a family where they could say, let's look at the trees, let's look at the blue sky, let's talk, let's learn letters, let's be a family. She was on her stinking phone. Pushing. There he is. And this is what kids are going to grow up with. Their parents are completely disengaged. It is a cult. It is like a demonic possession. It is like people shooting up heroin right in front of their kids, sitting there. Here's your life. Here's life. You actually created this life. There it is. It's riding its little bike with you. There's life. You just created that one. Just came out. You're walking there trying to get exercise, showing that we are together as a family. And she said, no, you're not important, baby. You're not important, son. No, this is what really needs to get my attention. And she could have just been whispering to him, son, what do you think about the sun? How do you think the trees were made? What kind of bird do you think that is? Hey, what do you think what do you think it was like 100 years ago here? Hey, son, what is it, have you ever thought about what your favorite food is? What's your favorite color? Just spend time in nature and creation with your lineage. She's on the phone. Folks, when I tell you that America is in real, actual trouble, everybody I talk to, pastors, leaders, conservative leaders, when you look at the internet, which I'm on because I use it as a means to tell people who I am, where I'm going, what I do. We're on it right now on YouTube, live streaming, on Facebook, live streaming right now. And it's passed on to people. So I'm not a Luddite. Technology is wonderful, but it becomes an obsession. It becomes an addiction. It becomes a drug. And we lose the ability to connect to the real people that are really there. Kids will never even know how to have real friends, how to connect to real friends, because they all sit around each other where they could be talking and learn how to articulate and reason and think and laugh and joke. And they're looking, every one of them is, why are you looking here? I'm right here. What's this? Why is this more crucial? And what's ironic is the person that's right here, if they left and did something else, they'd watch them here now that they're gone. They'll talk to them now. It's like a blindness over humanity. And it's a virus that's much worse than the fraud known as Corona that was used to deceive and to show how easy it will be to control the world. Well, we're there. And what I always try to say to folks is, what do we do? How do we defend ourselves? What do you do when somebody actually says you're a fascist and you're bad just because you believe in freedom and borders as a sovereign nation, that you believe in being able to have weapons to defend yourself, that you believe in not having a federal debt, that you believe in keeping everything in-house, that you believe in shutting down any interaction with China. Any should be removed. This evil domain must be crushed. You're a fascist, you're evil, you're bad, you're a hater, you're bigot, you're intolerant. I mean, everything they say, as I've taught you, is what they are, because it's institutionalized narcissism. It's the one thing about progressives and leftists. They literally expose themselves, and they don't know they do it. It's self-delusion. Whatever they call you is what they are. So if they say you're a hater, it's because they hate you. If they call you bigots, because they're bigoted towards you. If they say you're intolerant, it's because they're intolerant. And so at least they expose themselves. But it doesn't do any good, because the dissemination of information is controlled by the tech giants who are leftists. They just care about money and power. And they hate you. They hate you if you want freedom and autonomy and agency. So I've had people come to me and say, you know, hey, man, the Second Amendment was really just about the National Guard and militia. That's really all it was about. It had nothing to do with you defending yourself. Of course it did, because we have a comma between this well-regulated militia and the right to keep and bear arms. There's a comma, because there was two different elements of freedom of protecting yourself. I did a whole rant on it that you can go look in one of my older podcasts. But what do you do when people are telling you that you're evil, you're bad, so you realize they're coming after you, so you want to have something to defend yourself, and then they say, see how they are? So it's like they're setting you up so that they can try to justify destroying you. Now, this isn't rhetoric. This isn't conspiracy theory. Folks, any more than the Revolutionary War was. It was real. It was real people like you and me, American citizens, or about to be, who took up arms against their nation, because the nation was going to control them and tell them they were not able to be free, even though they created everything that made the nation what it was. They were saying, too bad. And then the Civil War, where we were going to literally be split in half. Well, we're there now. We're there. We're at blue and red, right? And we don't know what it means to be red, white, and blue. We're only just red and blue. So where do we find the white, the peace, the I give up, the continuity, the coming back together? Is it possible to have such antithetical belief systems that are so counter to each other and aggressively despise each other because they literally cancel each other out? The two ideas of conservatism and leftism, not liberalism, leftism, deep Marxism, they can't coincide, because one is to defend freedom and liberty, and one is literally to steal that, to destroy you, to kill you, to imprison you, to shut you up. Literally, it's a group of thought, a thought group that his entire purpose is to control and dominate you and enslave you. It's what it's. Well, all you have to do is look at China and North Korea, and you'll see what it looks like when it wins. So I was sitting here, and I have a problem, a big dilemma. I'm a Christian, so I can't just go out and shoot people I don't like. I don't have that privilege as a Christian. But I do have just war theory. There is a historical theory as to when Christians can defend themselves with violence. And that's really the key. We're not an offensive religion. We're not allowed to say, you don't like my beliefs, so I'm going to go shoot you. That was tried a couple times under the guise of Christianity, and it was always lambasted by true Christians, saying, this is not who we are. You are deceived, and you are disparaging what Christ stood for, so you're destroying it. You're destroying our image. You're destroying his purpose. And so it never took. I mean, it's always cracks me up when people say, oh, yeah, you Christians did the same thing as the Muslims. Look at the Crusades. Crusades, first off, were to defend the Holy Land from Muslim invaders. That's what we were doing. But there was times when it went too far. There was times when it was offensive, and there was times, of course, the Spanish Inquisition. There were moments where it was abused and it was not Christian. But the beautiful thing about our faith is that intrinsic in the Word of God states you're not allowed to do those things. So even in the very word that they claimed they believed in, said, you guys are off. You're wrong. We could evaluate within our own holy book. We didn't have any options. But what about Germany? Trying to take over the world, and the true fascists that exterminated Jews. What about the times that we've tried to defend innocent people and people that are being killed and raped and maimed? And we said Christianity would defend the defenseless, would bring justice to those who deserve it. What do we do? How do we do this? How do we do it biblically? So I found an old friend, and this is exciting for me. So I'm going to tell you right now, You're about to see an interview with my friend, and it is pre-recorded, okay? Now, I'm telling you that now because we did something different. When I did this, it was on the laptop that you guys are used to, what you used to have me use. I won't have these on because I needed the microphone in there. But here's the thing. We used Zoom. Now, you might be thinking, why didn't you do that all along? Well, we're still trying to figure things out, and Wyatt, as you know, screws up a lot. But anyways, we tried Zoom, and we recorded it. So we hope and think that everything's in sync, that you're not going to see my lips taken off without my voice. And if it works, and if we see that we have proof of concept, that this is a way now to do it, we'll see if we can do it live too. And if it doesn't lag, we've conquered another problem of glitches, that we can actually have a nice interview where everybody syncs, and it's not this crazy thing where nobody is matching up and you go nuts. So you're going to see our first shot at using Zoom, and then putting it on our software and making sure, and hopefully everything goes great. And then we can, if I am convinced that these interviews are working now and they're professionally working, I'm going to be able to start bringing in more live guests, but also more friends who are out in the marketplace, who you will like, who are interesting, who are famous, who are good people. But I'm not doing that until I know that we are able to do this well. So here we go, folks. I'm going to do an interview with a friend of mine who is a former mixed martial artist, fighter, Christian, was a pastor, businessman now, but he is in fact someone who really understands the idea of Christian and when violence is almost necessary. There's no option. So why do we have the clip of him in his fight?
Yes,
okay.
we do.
Okay. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce you. He fought under the title The Fighting Preacher. His name is John Rankin. Very interesting guy. You're going to really like this interview. It's going to bother you. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be challenging for some of you, especially if you're Christians. But you need to hear it. But first, I wanted to introduce you to my buddy. You're going to see a little bit about what this guy used to do. And then we will come right back, and I will be on the laptop, and you will see an interview with the fighting preacher, John Rankin, who got his start doing this. How much time we got, son?
Veteran with a 2-1-1 record from Kansas City, Kansas, Curtis Stout.
That man is one of the most exciting fighters ever to step into this ring. He is a favorite tonight over John Rankin, but he's given up quite a bit of experience. Curtis Stout out of Kansas City, Kansas, and the American Jiu-Jitsu Academy.
He is a two-time shoot champion, a veteran of over 50 mixed martial arts competitions, representing the Team Havoc from Fort Campbell, Kentucky, John Rankin.
And Rankin, both fighters coming out very uniquely tonight. You're not watching the WWE, you are watching Hook and Shoot. That man right there is the head of a ministry in Fort Campbell, Kentucky, former Army Ranger as well. And the crowd, who once almost booed him out of this building, cheer for him tonight. John Rankin, Jennifer Rankin, also his wife, she also competes in kickboxing. And Steve Crawford in the corner of Curtis Stout, giving last-minute instructions. Rankin looking in pretty good shape, probably the best shape I've seen him look in a long, long time. Former Hook and Shoot champion, two-time champion. And Stout always looks ready.
This will be 2 5-minute rounds.
Ready? Ready? Let's fight!
Here we go. It's underway. This is one we've been looking forward to. Stout. Looking very relaxed. Oh, nice knee. Oh, man.
So, as I have always told you guys, when I decide that I'm going to bring on interesting guests, I'm not screwing around. That was my good friend, old friend. We've known each other for quite some time now. Some of his highlights of when he used to call himself the fighting preacher. I think he's the fighting businessman now. I'm not sure, but he's quite the entrepreneur and a very unique friend, unique warrior, unique Christian, and probably what we need more of, to be honest, in America right now, because we certainly are at a unique time in this nation. And that's what we're going to talk about. And he's a perfect person to represent the warrior spirit, because he was in the Army. And I'm not even sure all of his ranks and accolades, so I'll let him give us that information personally. But let me introduce formally my friend, John Rankin. John, how are you, brother?
Doing great, man. Thanks for having me on.
Well, I couldn't think of anybody I would rather have on during this time. You know, you and I first met, I think, back in around '08. I'm going to guess. I was toying with Godmen, which was a men's ministry, and it ended up getting some press. And so you noticed it. I think it was in the Tennessean or something, and you saw it. You said, "Man, I don't know what you all are doing down there," but I went in, and so you contacted me, and I couldn't get you down here fast enough because you were a former MMA guy, and at that time I had really begun to appreciate MMA. I did a little martial arts, but nothing to the degree you did, and frankly, it was very disappointing when I realized what I had put time into and how little I learned how to fight. So it showed me the scams that a lot of these martial arts studios are, or dojos. But tell me, just for quickly, so my audience can know a little bit about your background. You have an incredible testimony for sure, but maybe just, well, not necessarily a micro version, whatever you feel comfortable with, but just a little bit of a background as to kind of who you are and what helped you become what you are, and a little bit of your journey to your spiritual dimension, so that at least we know everybody's on the same page as far as how we see the world somewhat.
Yeah, so good segue. I served in the military from 1993 to 1996. Was not a Christian. As a matter of fact, I was a Satanist. My squad leader ended up leading me to the Lord while I was serving in the Army. And then I got out and went to Bible college. When I was in Bible college, I started to fight professionally because I loved it. 60 fights, 60 plus fights, 6 world titles. Then moved back here to Tennessee and started training special forces and did a bunch of stuff with special forces for over 20 years. Went to Afghanistan twice. And I have a ton of military stuff that I did that I don't know how relevant it is, but I did a lot of it. And during all that, pastored the church for 15 years. So.
Yes, and I remember helping, or I think you might have brought me in to speak. I don't even remember now, honestly, John. But it seems like I came once to your show or show, yeah. And I even went to a MMA event there locally that you had promoted, and that was a blast. And it's like anything. I mean, the martial arts, the fighting game, in a way, is a performance art. It's entertainment. It just happens to be the difference between a ballet, which is very physical, and people actually don't realize how incredible athletes those guys are. But
most of the time the ballet doesn't end with one guy getting knocked out.
Right.
So, but certainly MMA is different in that regard. And I think that what makes you such a great guest at this time in place in my podcast and what my whole career and ministry is becoming is because we're living in a culture now that has for quite some time diminished masculinity, and not only diminished it, but has sort of maligned it as somehow inherently evil, the cause of all the destruction and darkness and horror that humans have ever experienced is somehow because of men. And it has functioned as a way to neuter or emasculate men. And I don't know how you could do anything to destroy a nation faster than to eliminate the masculine men, because they're the only ones that keep things run. I mean, God, obviously, we believe in the higher power, but God made the universe and he made people and he made nations. He said, hey, you got to do your own stuff. I'm not fighting for you. You know, I'll come behind you and I will give you rules and I'll give you spiritual insights and so forth. And I'll come alongside, but you made your own bed. Now you go fix it. So tell me, if you can, based on your experience. So you have such a unique perspective. You were a Satanist. I don't know if you were an atheist before that or prior to that, but you were a Satanist, and so you you literally chose the dark side for a while, and then you became a Christian. You found the light side. You found the light. You found the truth and the balance that you were obviously looking for. So your history as a man, as a person, was it fairly normal upbringing? Did you have some difficulty, perhaps some challenges maybe with dad? That's always a big thing between men, as their father. And was that pretty good? Was it kind of hard? Was it abusive, or was it normal and you just like to fight?
Yeah, so I mean, it's a little bit of all that. So I ended up leading my dad to the Lord. My dad and I didn't have a great relationship, and he was abusive, but I don't think it was as significant as some of the others I've seen. He had a temper, and he did the best he could with what he had, right? So, however, I was also sexually abused by a friend of the family, which my mom and dad never knew about until, hell, man, I was already out of the Army by the time I had told them. So, I was 25, 26.
Was that a male or female?
Yep. Male and female, actually. So, and then I moved from the north to the south. So I was in Texas for a bit. And so I didn't have a Southern accent. So I got in a lot of fights and a lot of, just different stuff. And, so like as I went through counseling and stuff for my own junk, the counselor said they weren't surprised that I became a fighter. So for me, there was a couple of different things, I guess, with fighting and I don't know where it comes from, if it's all from abuse or if it's from, being raised poor, if it's, I know part of it's God's design for me personally, because he allows us to endure those things, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think you can ever point the finger at somebody else and go, I'm this way because of you, because oftentimes God allows those things to happen for us so that we can be who he wants us to be.
Yeah.
So there's some what's that word? I don't remember, but basically the butterfly, right? So you get stuck in a cocoon and God shapes you and he uses all the stuff around you to shape you into the tool or the weapon he wants you to be. So, I really, when I saw MMA back in '93, I mean, it was like a light bulb went off for me. I was like, this is what I want to do. And everybody was like, no way, there's no money there. It's like, I don't care if there's any money there or not. Like the idea of being, locked in a cage and me and you going at it until one of us is victorious, there's no excuses. There's nobody to blame. You know, it's to me, it was the truest form of competition there could be. You know, and I loved it. I loved every minute of it.
Now, you said you got an MMA after you became a Christ follower.
Yeah.
So you had a regenerate spirit. You had a perspective on life that was certainly you weren't necessarily the version of John you are today. You had a lot of journey like we all do. We all learn as we get older that the stuff we really needed to learn oftentimes don't come for many years and in perspective and living a life. So I'm not trying to kind of decide that, oh, the moment you accept Christ, that suddenly you're this perfect person or that everything of your past has vanished. But there must have been, because I believe you have the Spirit of God in you, some sense of you having to reconcile battling or physical violence, even though it's in a controlled state. It's not in a rage state or in a I want to actually kill somebody, but in a confined rules sort of environment. Even though you were in the hardcore MMA before they had all the rules, where you guys were just, you didn't give a crap where you fought. You found some place. You told me about the Cold House, I think it was, South Dakota, where y'all would just sit around and say, we're fighting each other, and somebody, hopefully the referee is paying attention if I get choked out that he doesn't let me die. You guys were hardcore. I mean, this was legit fighting. I see some of it now. There's some things called like backyard brawls or what. Yeah. So it seems like it's probably similar to what you all did, but you guys did it when things were, no MMA was sanctioned. Nothing was accepted. Everybody thought all you'd ever hear is cockfight. It's a human cockfight. They really diminished it.
Yeah.
And what blew my mind was, I'm an old enough guy that I first understood martial arts at my age, as most American boys did, through the Green Hornet. And we saw Kato, who was Bruce Lee, do karate. We'd never seen or heard of it. This is in the 60s. So you, a 6-7-year-old boy watching a guy do karate for the first time, you're going, that is the coolest thing I have ever seen in my whole, forget boxing.
Older than me, man.
Nothing. Yeah, no, but I mean, it was just, and we might have saw boxing or wrestling, but when we saw for the first time karate, we just had never seen it because it's not a Western tradition. So we didn't know what that looked like. So when I began to see MMA, and my son got involved in karate, and so I said, well, I'll do it with you. I've always been interested in that. And then MMA hit so it must have been around 2003 or 4 when the big blast for MMA exploded. Next thing you know, this is the hottest sport in the whole world. And that was with that fight of
Griffin and Stephen Bonner.
That's it. And I saw it. And I was like everybody else. We saw that saying, this is it. This is what this is. This is unbelievable.
Yeah.
And it was beautiful, frankly, because it was so masculine. It wasn't some kind of posturing. It wasn't some kind of ego. It was man-on-man guys who respected each other and showed what it took to take a punch. That's the thing I learned. I think the greatest thing I learned was when I got out of the thing I was doing, which it was point sparring. So I knew instinctively, this ain't right. How do I know how to fight if a guy can't actually hit me? Because I don't really know what this is going to be like. So I found a guy who I introduced you to, Eric Melton, who was a kickboxer, welterweight world champion. So he let you go full contact. So finally I got to fight some of his black belts, 16-ounce gloves, headgear. You get kicked in the head for the first time and punched in the face.
That's a different experience.
There you go. Oh, this isn't quite the perfect kata that I had experienced, where you do this one block and and you think they're going to suddenly be knocked unconscious, and they laugh at you.
Yeah.
And you taught me so much about, this idea that you kick somebody, you figure, well, that neutralizes them. And you're like, no, they'll catch your kick and throw you on the ground. Now it's like, wait, no, they're supposed to be knocked out. This is all not real until you're really there and there's really something at stake. And then you see what a fight really is. The beauty of MMA was it answered the question that every guy wondered, who's got the best technique? Because if I'm going to fight, I want to do the one that's the best one, clearly. And I learned
that the best technique is, and you kind of taught me this, frankly, the best technique is that if I'm better at what I do than you are, I win. That's the best technique. If you're a better boxer, then I won't box you. I'll take you on the ground. Now what you got to do? Oh, you want to take me on the ground? Then I'm going to kick you in the head. Now what you going to do? It's like I will neutralize your strength and find your weakness. It's like that is beautiful because that's the spiritual world. Yeah. Find the weak spot and exploit that. Why am I going to your strength? Find what you suck at and go do that.
And it's the human chess element, right?
Yeah.
Like I have to play the perfect game to counter your strengths, to exploit your weaknesses. It's chess, but it's just chess with two humans. And it really is, I mean, like it's not spiritual, but it's almost like a spiritual experience. Well, you know? And it's just, it's amazing.
Well, here's the thing though, John, and this is kind of leading us to what I really wanted to bring your expertise in and your experience. It is, okay, the Bible, which is this thousands of years old document. It's the greatest book ever written in human history. There's nothing like it. Starting with the Israelites and this creation of a whole group of people called Jews, and then them having this sort of Messiah coming, and it's predicting this miraculous stuff, and then they have this tradition of history of things that happened to them that was unlike anything that had ever happened miraculously, and they had found this monotheistic God. It had never existed in human history. They had always had polytheism and worship of nature and paganism. Suddenly here comes this guy saying, no, that there really is a God and it's just me. And then they kind of have a Messiah, and he shows up and he does crazy crap that nobody can believe. And then he comes back from the dead, which is the most amazing story in history. God dies. God dies. That's pretty amazing. God's dead. What? And then he comes back because he's gone. So there's never been a story like this. And it tells it's the rule book for humanity. Here's what happened. Here's what went wrong. Here's where it's going. Here's how we fix it. But along the way, it's going to suck, because you guys screwed up. And, but what I wanted to get at was, but it's filled with war.
Yeah.
It's filled with warriors. It's filled with battles. It's filled with, I mean, it's part of the nomenclature of the human experience. David versus Goliath. Yeah. It was a battle. And here comes Goliath, this giant guy with this giant spear and this giant shield. And David didn't bring a sword and say, well, let's see if I'll fence this guy. I'm going to throw a freaking rock at you. I'm going to neutralize you because I don't want to get close. I'm going to just throw a rock from a safe distance and kill you, which is kind of like if somebody said to me, you know, hey, can you beat an MMA guy in a fight on the street? And I'd say, yeah, because I carry a gun. That's how I'd beat it. I mean, I would realize this guy can kill me, so I'm going to have to shoot him. I mean, that's just being prudent. But it sounds unchristian. So what I need from you.
Yeah, so there's a couple of problems.
Yeah.
We have adopted this, you know, this pacifist version of Christianity, right? And it's because a lot of people don't look at the interplay of the Old Testament with the New Testament and the incarnations of Christ. And there's a bunch of different stuff here. But so Exodus 15:3 says this: the Lord your God is a warrior, the Lord is your God. Right? So one of the very principled identities that God gives us of himself is that he is a warrior, right? And then you go a little bit further, and in Judges, it says that actually that God left these nations to war against Israel so that those who had not known war previously would know war, because out of conflict and out of struggle comes what God really has in store for us, right? So then you have the advent of Christ, where he comes the incarnation, but he comes the first time around as the suffering servant. So he lays down his life. He's not militant. He's not aggressive. He's not even pro-war. He is the suffering servant, right? However, towards the end of his ministry, he makes a couple of like really bizarre, like when you think about the suffering servant model that he came in, comments. If you don't have a sword, go buy one.
Yeah.
If then you have the story after the parable where he's talking about what happens when he comes back the second time. And he says this, gather up those who did not serve me and kill them. And this is in Luke. And so, the story that he says there is that a rich ruler went away to a faraway land. That was this land. And he says that he went there and people rejected him. Even though he was sovereign, even though he was the king and he had authority over all of it, they rejected him and his authority. And then it's all over. He comes back to his homeland, heaven. It says, now gather up all those who refuse to serve me. So I think in Christianity, people, because it's not taught, number one, but people don't think about that there are two testaments and there's two advents. And they don't understand how the two interplay with one another. Now, there's a third part of this that's really important, which is that humans blotched it. We messed it up. And if God is truly a God of love, he can't force you to serve him. I mean, for all of us married folks, right? If you think about it, does your spouse truly love you if they have no choice? They have to be with you. Is that really going to be love? So God creates a system. He creates the ability for people to freely choose to serve him. Well, if he created a system that allows you to choose to serve him, that means he also created a system that allows you to choose not to. Now, here's where this gets really, I think in the New Testament, it becomes abundantly clear. Paul says that God instilled authority into governments to rule, to raise armies, and to exact vengeance. And he actually says that they're ministers of God. And he uses a really odd word that we only find in the Old Testament, which is that some of you will be avengers. And the concept there is from, I can't remember if it's Deuteronomy or Numbers, but there was an avenger that was appointed to exact vengeance for the slaughter of the innocent. So Paul uses this analogy that the government is the avenger and it's a minister to God. Right? So, and a lot of people don't like this kind of language. It goes against our culture. G.K. Chesterton talked about this, as well as, what was the other guy that was contemporary of Tolkien?
C.S. Lewis?
C.S. Lewis. Both of them addressed this idea of pacifism and how pacifism is not Christianity. And as you so famously got plastered across the media for, Jesus was also the guy that picked up a cat of nine tails and feared a temple.
Yeah.
So there's far more that happens here than what people are willing to even look at. And then interplay all of that with that we have the Spirit of the living God inside us. And we're told to turn the other cheek. So how do you interpret all of that, right? So, and typically what ends up happening is you have some that go all the way to the pacifist side, and then you have some that go all the way to the other side. And the answer is in the middle there with that the Spirit of God resides in us. He'll tell us when we should be pacifist and when we should actually strike.
Well, so the problem, well, I don't know if that's the better word, the challenge, I think is what I'd rather say, is this. We are in a time in our country that is kind of, I got to be honest, I'm not a historical expert like some folks are, but John, I don't know if we've ever been in such a potential dilemma for literally this country unraveling completely, and everything that we have thought would hold the republic together, the things that gave us a foundational reality, the Constitution we'd all agree with, even if we didn't like the outcome of some of the Supreme Court decisions. The Constitution was the final arbiter, so we just have to deal with that. If we don't agree with all the political elements of those who happen to be, whose administration happens to be running things, we would still honor our flag because we were Americans. We would still stand up for it. We would still sing a national anthem because what mattered was we were a united states, and we would always look for ways to balance the scales if things went one or the other. And let's face it, whoever's in charge, the antithetical group always thinks they've gone too far. And then when it's your turn, they think you've gone too far. And everybody says we need the middle, but it's really hard. Honestly, I don't know if there has ever been a middle of anything, because middle is almost like it's not accomplishing anything. If you really,
It's true.
if you're not hated by somebody, you don't stand for anything.
Yep.
Because you have to stand for something, for somebody to say, how dare you? You are threatening my freedom, my autonomy, my agency with your ideas, because my ideas are superior. I want power over you. And it's always about power because, as you and I know, because we're Christians, which means we actually have the actual understanding of how the world works. Everybody is filled with pride, which was the original sin. I'll be God. I want power. They always claim you're trying to steal my freedom, my democracy, my power, not ever acknowledging, no, you're basically doing the exact same thing. Well, here we sit. We just recently had a president give an address.
Very
And he, for all intents and purposes, threatened half of America.
Yeah.
Now, I've had people.
A little bit more than half once you take all the dead people out of the room.
Right, exactly. And I've had people, who have got on my threads when I did a rant again for the Second Amendment, and I've had people say, they always want to fight. Well, it was for the militia, it was for the National Guard, it wasn't, I've always lambasted that. But when people say to me, when they say, I don't believe you should be able to own a gun, it should only be in the hands of the militia or of the National Guard or whatever. And when they say that to me, I'll say, let me tell you why the Second Amendment was created. It was created to protect me from you. You're the problem because you're the exact person and philosophy this amendment was given to. So I am going to defend myself from those who would tell me I'm not permitted to defend myself. That's all I need to know. But here's the challenge, John. Because the dissemination of information in the United States, which is the lifeline of a free people. How do we talk about ideas? How do we examine ideas? How do we come to conclusions if we're not all given information so we can try to assess them with the wisdom, hopefully, of our age and of the ages? But we don't have that anymore. The left controls all dissemination of information. They control all the dissemination of education. They control all dissemination of technology. We learned that with the truckers in Canada. We're just going to take your bank account, steal your money. It's like, holy crap, if that's how things are panning out, we're kind of screwed because we can't just defend ourselves because suddenly the corporations become a battlefield and they become weaponized. So we're in an existential crisis. We are being threatened. And it's as though what I'm watching is that the left is basically poking us, challenging us,
Of course.
threatening us, saying these guys are terrorists, they're potential problems, they're going to destroy America. And so they need to go to jail, they need not to be listened to, they need to be terrorized, they need to be abandoned, they need to be canceled. So they literally threaten my life. When I pick up arms to defend myself, they say, see, they create me no option but to defend myself. And then when I do, they say, you're the aggressor.
Yeah.
So
They've set the board.
exactly. So as a former military, and I know you respect it, even though it's becoming woke, which is about as dangerous as it can get, if that's going
Well,
sideways.
the leadership that is not voted but appointed is woke, but the average soldier is not.
Good. And can we assume that if the average soldier was given a directive to attack the citizenry, he would internally consider that unconstitutional and would disobey such a direct command?
There's only one unit that can get involved in that way, and that's the National Guard. The minute that anybody in politics, left or right, tries to use the United States military against its own citizens, everybody's going to know that that's unconstitutional. Everybody in the military knows.
Okay.
So the Constitution is pretty clear on this fact, that the military cannot be used against its own citizenry, right? Now, the National Guard is a different story. The National Guard can be mobilized. So I would be shocked to see anybody in the military, any branch, all four branches, 5 if you count the Coast Guard, 6 if you count Space Force. I would be surprised at anybody that would obey that order.
Well,
probably some in there that would, but
yeah.
But by and large, that is just not an actual reality.
So as a Christian, we're getting out of time here, and I appreciate your we'll have to have you on again, John. I don't know why I haven't asked you before, though we've had so many technical glitches that I was waiting until I could actually have an interview and it went smooth. Yeah. But so as a Christian, man, for my viewers out there, and it does get shared around, it's building up fairly decent numbers, but they're mainly Christians and conservatives and patriots that listen to me. What is in your perspective, the just war theory, Christian permission to go to actual combat? I've talked about the militia of the mind, hoping to reason and get enough people on our side that it doesn't have to go to bloodshed. But what would be historically, what would have to occur by which you believe Christians are given the right to defend themselves with weaponry and bloodshed?
I don't think it's even a discussion. Jesus very clearly says, if you don't have a sword, go buy one. I don't think we have to justify defending ourselves at all. The minute somebody shows up at your doorstep without authority and seeks to do harm to you or your family, it's over. Period. Like, it's not even a question to me. Unless the Spirit of God, for some reason, says that you're going to be a martyr.
Yeah.
Which has happened throughout the ages.
Yeah.
Right? Fox's Book of Martyrs, right? So there is a place for you to lay down your arms and to lay down your life and to give it up on behalf of the kingdom.
Mm.
But there's also a place where that's not the time and you take up arms. And every person has to make that determination for themselves. I would just say, as for me and my house,
yeah.
Well,
do you believe that a lot of the Christians that are suffering, let's say in Uganda and Nigeria and Afghanistan and all these Muslim or communist-run cultures, North Korea, do you believe that if they were armed, they would try to be defending themselves, or do you think they've accepted this sort of martyrdom perspective?
Well, so here's how I'll answer that, because I know a few of them. I don't know how they would answer that, but here's what I'll say. In Revelation, it says that God actually builds the church through the blood of the martyrs.
Mm.
So what I try to do in my walk, because I am a military guy, and I do believe in the use of force, and I believe that the use of force is actually God's way of keeping violence and evil to a minimum. That it's a way that He plays the chessboard to keep the most amount of people safe. But I'm also a person that reads the Bible and understands that there's a special place in heaven for those who lay down their lives for others through the act of martyrdom. And the Bible is very clear that it's the blood of the martyrs that builds and advances the church in an evil world that is actually aligned against us, right? So there's this friction between those two notions. And here's my opinion: is every person, through their own personal relationship with God, has to answer the question of where do they fall. And it's my opinion that changes situation to situation to situation, right? So for me, if you come to my house and you try to do anything, you will take my gun one bullet at a time, unless I know that you're at my house specifically because I serve the Lord. And then I believe that it's my call as a Christian to lay down arms and lay down my life. I can tell you that from my vantage point and everything I've done in my life, that will have to be a miracle from God, because I'll probably be stubborn and not listen.
You're right.
But I know that if what I'm suffering is because I'm a believer, that God's call is indisputable. Lay down your life. Is there any other reason than the gospel? Take up arms.
No, I think you're right, and I think that's a beautiful way to see it. And I love the idea of laying down our lives. Nobody wants to do it. Nobody says, "Please let me be a martyr." But sometimes you find yourself in no option. So it's like, well, then God, honor this. Let this be a sacred moment of warriorship where I'm doing the greatest love, which I'll lay down my life with the presumption that there's something beautiful here that you're going to use against my enemy, perhaps to bring them to Christ. But secondly, you are my vindicator. You are my judge. You will bring judgment and vengeance upon my enemies. So I don't have to sweat this.
I forget what movie it was, but it was some movie. But basically, and nobody, like you said, nobody wants to be this person. Like, I don't want to be this person.
Yeah.
But at some point, some saint, some believer is going to shed their blood. And it's their blood that's going to be the fire that extinguishes tyranny.
Oh, nice.
Right? I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
Right? But we have to understand that when things are crazy, there's this interplay, right? Maybe I'm supposed to lay down my life. Maybe I'm supposed to take up arms. The Maccabees did it, right? They took up arms against the Roman government. But there always is somebody that gets killed that is the spark for that revolution.
Yes. Amen.
And you know, that's why I say it's up to each individual to pray, to hear from God, to determine where they sit in that cosmic chess game, because you might not want to, but.
Now, when I told you that it was going to be glitch free and that was our prayer, it glitched! Obviously, a very, very interesting and important interview. We've discovered that there's some kind of thing within Zoom that if you want to, I guess, have more than 30 minutes, then you have to pay extra money or whatever. Anyways, we're still learning, but I think that it was worth it because I think we're onto something. I think we found a way to have some interviews now that we can have that will be viewable and interesting to you guys and won't be glitching and messed up and so forth. So that's crucial. But, you know, I don't know what else to say about what we just discussed. I was concerned because as a Christian, I really wanted to understand the idea of just war theory. You know, what do I do if I was I was attacked, my family was attacked, my freedom was attacked? How would I defend myself? What would I have done in Nazi Germany if I was there, or in Poland or France? Would I have been in the resistance, or would have just gone along with the crowd? What would I have done in the Civil War? Would I have just tried to kind of stay low and let them duke it out, or would I said I gotta participate? I have to jump in. What would I have done in the Revolutionary War, where there were citizens here of the colonies that were for Britain or didn't want to get involved, and the majority didn't, and yet it was won by these regular militia forces that just wanted to give whatever was necessary to have freedom and self-governance. So, I mean, as I've said many times, these aren't myths. We read them like they're myths that we're supposed to get inspiration from. These were real people in real times like us right now saying, is this true? Is this happening? Is it up to us now to decide if we're going to go down fighting or simply give ourselves away and essentially hand the shackles to slave masters to lock us up and steal our freedom, steal our property, steal our fortunes and our sacred honor, steal it and take it without a fight? Is that what it means? Because if that's what we believe, we're not Americans anymore. It's gone. It's over. The experiment has concluded. I don't believe that, but I just have always been a fighter, a warrior. It's always bothered me that I'm not more. I've always admired men, especially that were meek and kind and calm and had their wits about them and didn't get riled like I've always battled. I've admired that about them, but I don't have that temperament. And then I came to realize God made me the way I am for this time, to speak out. And the only challenge I have is differentiating between anger and rage, out of control, and righteous indignation, where I'm defending freedom and justice and truth. And for my family, I'm fighting for them. As I have said before, we easily will stand up and sing the national anthem or have the military and former military stand up, and we'll salute them and we'll clap for them and appreciate their sacrifice, and certainly for those that didn't make it back. And as I've said to you guys before, well, yes, but they were just citizens that said, I need to participate. I need to risk because others risked before me. And my call to you is, it's your turn. It's your turn. We saw, I bring it up every week, even though we're moving further and away from the corona thing, we can never forget it. It exposed everything. It exposed what your neighbor will do if push comes to shove. Will they betray you, turn you in, tell you about, call people up, let them know where you're hiding? Or will they fight with you and work with you and defend you? Will they care about freedom and autonomy? Will they care that even if they have less, at least they're free and the government cannot have control over us? Because that's not American. If that's what you believe, you're not an American. You're no longer, you might be a citizen. You might have a citizenship, but you're not of our DNA. You're not of our ilk. We've lost the through line that gave us continuity, that taught us who we were and could tell our stories to each other. If we don't allow the truth, and you know, it's interesting, when you hear people talk about we need to speak about the real history of America, it's a code word. It's a dog whistle for we need to find areas of America that weren't good, that weren't beautiful, and we will exacerbate them, and we will magnify them, and we will make them out of balance, and we will lie about them. 1619 Project is a lie. This country wasn't founded on slavery. It wasn't created by slavery. It had slaves, as did every nation on earth. It did. Yeah. And they created a document that guaranteed they were going to have to give up their slaves. The people that created that document, who could have done anything they wanted at that point because they had absolute control, said that's not going to work. If we're going to be honorers of this creed that we've created about all men created equal, then we certainly have this torment of these folks here who aren't of that ilk. And if we are going to be authentic to this belief of what this nation is built on, this is going to have to be dealt with. So this is where we're at, guys, and I don't know. I don't know where it's all going. You don't either. None of us do, but I say and pray for a third great awakening. I pray that I will be able to continue to talk about these things like I do. Go to these live events in Minnesota for the whole week. Then I'm going to go to some other places and some fundraisers for Christian schools and for conservative groups and candidates. Going to churches and saying, let's fight, let's be warriors, let's stand up. Let's say that to be a Christian means you are all in, that you tell people about this truth. If it's true, you can't not tell people God was here. I got to tell you about it. That was literally the last thing the God you say you believe told you to do before he left. So here's where we're at. And we have to take it seriously. There is no more time for casual compromise. We don't have any more window. We are on the brink. And the persecution of American Christians is here. So it's our turn. So what are we going to do with this? How are we going to defend? What are we going to do? I'm doing my little part as a live event, some other events like you saw with my opera singer, Jonathan Chiliafaro. That's still coming into fruition soon. I'll show you a clip of that. We did it at a church that will allow us to show you what it's about. We're going to hopefully build that up. So I'm using communication as my means of fighting back and you having the militia of the mind. If you believe in what I do and care about this, as I always say, you can always give a gift, a donation. It's a 501c3 ministry about loving God first and being grateful for this nation. And if you want someone that can fight this and has a little bit of a public awareness, I guess, because I'm a comic and an actor and all the things I've done, and we'll fight for these values, then, you know, you want to participate, you can help me do that. It will allow us to find better software. It will allow us to set up the mic next to me right here, so we'll be able to have live guests, and we're close. It's going to allow us to have to be able to pay a little bit of money to Wyatt to be able to take more time to really learn this craft and get it down. So, anyways, that's just what I do. If you're interested, let me know. We'll give you a link, and you can go give a gift, and so be it. But in the meantime, I want to say thank you for coming out. I hope you enjoyed that. If you ever have any comments or things about people you'd like to talk about or what you think about these, and if you think I'm onto something, if you think what I'm doing matters, if it's bearing fruit, let me know. Not because I need my ego stroked, because I want to make sure that I am helping you, encouraging you, and hopefully making you realize that I not only want to watch this, I want to go out and do damage for the kingdom while I can amongst the territory I'm responsible for, but also that you share this, you get it out into the marketplace, and let's see what God might do with this crazy thing he called me to do that I never saw coming. So God bless you once again. I'll be back next week with my son with a very special episode next week. We've already got it planned out, and this will be right off the heels of the Minnesota tour. So this is God's Comic, Brad Stine at Brad Stine Has Issues, saying, remember folks, always be the truth teller, the last of the truth tellers. Never live by lies. PC free is liberty. Don't be politically correct. Ever fight truth. Stand. Never surrender. Never apologize for the truth. This is God's Comic, Brad Stine, signing off till next week. And remember, all I'm doing is putting the woke back to sleep. God bless.